Hey everybody, welcome. Thank you for being here. It turns out that my yoga studio was a little hard to film in on this kind of dark and dreary day. So here I am back home in my home studio. Welcome. It's really nice to have you here and thanks for bearing with me. But we're going to do maybe a 20-minute practice, I think, to just kind of work all the bugs out. What I'd really like to do is focus on a little bit of twisting, a little bit of forward folds, because those two types of poses are really beneficial in helping to soothe the nervous system. And that's what I'd kind of like to focus on. We're just kind of getting rid of all of that kind of gut response to all the news, the changes in our lives. All of us are experiencing it. And also just the mood, like I said earlier, some people are really upset and feel really anxious and need some breathing and movement and bringing the breath into some of those spaces where you really feel a lot of nervous tension. And some people are kind of more on the annoyed side, angry, annoyed. This is all more overblown than it needs to be. So we're coming together. We're all just kind of in this together, and we're going to move the body in a way that feels soothing wherever you are along that spectrum, right? So join with me as we start seated. Let's sit with a lifted spine. Feel as though the crown of the head is centered over the middle of the chest. Middle of the chest is centered over the middle of the pelvis. For a few rounds of breath, tune in and see what's the state of the inner world here? What's the landscape look like on the inside as far as any nervous tension that might be there, any resistance to allowing the breath to fully come into the body. And maybe it's mental tension right now. Acknowledge it, whatever it is. And think about your intention. So I've already told you what my intention is for this class. But maybe you have a special intention that you'd like to bring into this class on the mat that you feel is a little more appropriate for you in this practice. And so if there is one, just settle in with it mentally and then lock it into the heart. And then bring your hands down by the hips. On the inhale, sweep the arms out and up. Maybe look up toward the thumbs. Exhale, release the arms down. Let the shoulders relax. Inhale, arms up. Look up toward the thumbs. Exhale, release the arms back down. Let your chin come all the way down toward the chest. And then one more time, float the arms upward. Look up toward the thumbs and then exhale, release back down. Let your hands come down. Bring the hands to the knees. Roll the shoulders a couple times. Do you feel a lot of tension in the shoulders? You start to hunch and huddle or hold tension in the back of the neck. This is a great way just to kind of bring awareness there, a little movement. And then rest with a lifted spine. Let the shoulders release down from the ears. Take a conscious breath into the middle of the body as if you feel the breath filling up at the navel center, expanding gently. And then exhaling, return to center. Do that one more time. Inhale. If you have knots in the stomach, let that kind of work into the crevices, the cracks, and release some of those knotted areas. And then exhale, bring the breath back to center. One more time. Let's bring one hand down to the floor, lift the other up and over. Come back up. Go to the other side. Keep the sits bones on the floor as you bend to the side and then back up. Let's do that a couple more times. Float the arm up and over and back and to the other side. Back to center. Hands come to the knees again. Roll the shoulders a couple more times. Bring space into that area between the shoulder blades, across the chest, at the base of the neck, at the jaw. Release any tension right there, and then really roll the shoulders up. Squeeze, roll the shoulders back and down and sit tall. Take a couple more breaths, very conscious breath in to the middle of the body. Let the breath expand as you inhale. Exhale, release back to center. And the next time you take that breath, try to release any expression on the face. Any stress you're holding in the face, at the temples. Exhale, release back to center. And then bring your hands behind. Lean back onto the hands. Let's bend the knees. Feet come forward. Let's just let the feet float, or the knees float, side to side. A couple times. Maybe let your head look in the opposite direction of the knees. Get a little stretch up in the neck area, top of the shoulders. Good. And back to center. Let's cross at the ankles and come to all fours. So when you come to all fours for cat and cow, feel as though the wrists are below the shoulders. Hands are really spread out, so you're sharing the load with all the fingers and not relying on just the heel of the hand. And let the knees come below the hip points, feet straight back from the knees. As you inhale, let the front of the body open. Open the chest, collarbone area, and then as you exhale, tilt the pelvis, lift the navel up, really draw the navel center in and up. Keep flowing back and forth, follow the breath. So just finding your natural rhythm of inhale and exhale. Nothing is forced. Remember today, we're really taking it gentle, being kind to ourselves. Finding a way of bringing the breath into all those tight spaces in the body. So whether or not you feel that's happening, with your mind and with your intention, imagine that you're bringing the breath into all the tight, tension-filled areas of the body. Loosening it up, bringing relief and peace into the body and the mind. After your next exhale with a lifted spine, come to a neutral back so you feel like you're really long in the spine. Again, reestablish that firm connection of the whole hand supporting you. And then we'll walk the knees in just a half step, just so you feel more balanced. As we come into a balanced pose, let's extend the left leg. So sometimes people like to leave the toes on the floor, or you can lift the foot straight back behind. And then extend the right arm. So the opposite arm, left leg, right arm. And then if you feel like you're kind of sagging in the belly, really firm the abdominals and feel strong, steady, sturdy in this pose. Again, you can't have your toes on the floor. You're still getting a lot of work here in this core part of the body. Try not to hunch the shoulders. Stay broad in the collarbone area, and then bring everything back to center. Take a cat stretch, maybe shake out the left wrist. Extend the right leg. So the toes can be on the floor or lifted straight back. Extend the left arm and reach. Feel firm in the abdominal muscles, in the back. Not hunching or crunching anywhere, but utilizing all the strength of the core of the body to support you as you hold this balanced pose and breathe. Don't hold the breath. Keep the breath moving. Hold that. One more full cycle of inhale, exhale, and then bring everything back to center. Take a cat stretch, shake out the right wrist maybe, and then walk the knees out toward the edges of the mat, big toes touching. Let's take a child's pose. So hips come back, and this will look different for everybody, just depending on how long it's been since you've done yoga, or what's happening in the knees, in the hips, in the back, in the ankles. Lots of things that you could do here to make this pose feel better to you. It's all about feeling good and getting a stretch. It's not anything forceful. Some people will like to put a blanket between the calves and the thighs. Some people will like to put a blanket underneath the ankles And some people will like to put a blanket underneath the forehead. So again, just hold that for another breath. Or two. Relax the shoulders. Try to release very consciously. Take a moment to release any tension that you might perceive in the body right now. And then lift yourself back up. Bring the knees back in, feet back out, everything lines up. And now we'll go through just a little bit of movement here. Let's go from cow pose. Lift as if you're coming in to cat, but let's lower down into child's pose. Keep the forearms toward the floor as long as you can. As you press through, lift up to cow pose. Exhale, really lift the navel center up. Lower down into child. Keep cycling through. Use the breath as your guide as you move in and out of cat, child. Let it flow, just keeping the breath moving. Warming up the body. And again, remember that we're not after perfection in our practice today. We're more after just bringing some new life into areas of tension that we've been gripping and holding in response to the events that have sort of changed a lot of things, not just sort of. For some of it, it's a big change in many ways, and that can be pretty stressful, a lot of pressure. So we're going to bring the breath in as we hold tabletop pose. Then lifting up into downward facing dog pose. So turn the toes under, lift the hips, and remember that anytime you feel like you'd like to bring in your blanket or a stack of books or a pillow that would increase the comfort level of any of these poses, feel free to do that. Sometimes right here, it's not comfortable to straighten the legs, and so, or, you know, it's better to bend the knees here than force something in the low back that you're not ready for. So if you feel like it's causing you to round the back and shift the weight forward toward the wrists, bend the knees and shift the hip, the weight back toward the balls of the feet. You just take another breath or two right here, and then start to walk slowly. Start walking slowly toward the hands in a standing forward fold. And again, this doesn't have to have any special appearance to be a forward fold. You could have the elbows resting on the knees. You could have your hands even resting on the knees. Or you can have this a little bit more of a forward fold with the crown of the head toward the floor. Any variation from really bent to really, try not to lock out the knees, but really lifted tailbone as much as you can. And shake out the shoulders, shake out the head. Sometimes walking the hands from side to side feels really good in the low back and in the legs. Do that a couple times each direction. And then hands come down to the floor. Again, bend the knees a lot, and we'll inhale, sweep the arms up. Come to a full stretch here. Really reach the arms as if you're trying to touch the fingertips toward the sky. And then exhale, hands come down to heart center. Pause right here. Being present with the breath again. As you pause right here, take a very mindful breath in. Where do you feel the breath as you draw the breath in? And can you bring it a little lower in the body? Roll the shoulder blades down the back. Inhale, arms raise up. Exhale, fold forward. So the knees can be as bent as you need right here. Fold in. And then inhale, bring the right leg back, and we're just going to let the right knee come to the floor, maybe even a blanket on the floor. Keep the front of the body open. Open it up, hands on the floor. As you lift your gaze, you can keep your gaze at the floor, but try to open up the chest, the front of the body. And then lift the left foot up and back. Come into plank pose. So when you come into plank, you want to try to be as long as you can through the whole body. Heels, hips, shoulders, and then back of the head. This can also be done in a half plank position. So let's just hold that one more breath, kind of waking up the core of the body, and then bring the knees. This is a back bending pose. Chest and chin to the floor. Lift the tailbone, and then reach forward with the body. Roll the shoulders back. Top of the feet on the floor. Lift into just a very gentle cobra. Exhale, come back down. Let's do that again. Let's bring the hands out so that you feel your elbows are drawn in, hands wide, and lift again. Just a gentle cobra, low cobra. Exhale back down. Hands come underneath the shoulders. Roll the shoulders back. Top of the feet on the floor. Every toenail on the floor. You can keep your gaze at the floor. Just lift the heart and then lower. And now lift the toes. We're going to press up into a half plank. Shift the hips back. And just for a few breaths here. Child's pose. Maybe rocking a little bit from side to side. Roll on the forehead. And as you're doing that, take a breath and imagine that you're lifting the breath from the low back up to the back of the heart. Let it expand and release back to the base of the spine. And then lift to all fours again. Rise back up to downward facing dog pose. I'll move on the mat so you can see me completely. And then right foot lifts, and place the right foot in between the thumbs. Or another option here is, if it doesn't get there that easily, use your other hand and just get there however it gets there. But you want to have the foot between the hands. And now bring the gaze just slightly forward. Open up the front of the body. You probably will feel a stretch through this front hip flexor area. Try not to hunch and crunch in the shoulders. And then lift the left knee up. Step the left foot forward, fold in, and then inhale. Rise up, however much you want to bend the knees, maybe rolling, unfolding upward. Exhale, fold forward. Going right into the second side. Fold in. Release any tension in the upper body here. Step the left foot back. Big step back. Lower the knee to the floor. This time, let's lift the upper body. Maybe look up toward the thumbs. Maybe thumbs are going together, maybe not. And then hands come down. Step the right foot back to plank or half plank. And then lower the knees, chest and chin to the floor, and then stretch out. Roll the shoulders back. Tops of the feet on the floor. Press into the floor, lift to a cobra. This is just a low cobra. Elbows come in toward the side body, and then exhale back down. Do that again. Maybe hands come out to the sides. Try not to let the elbows open out. Try to keep them drawn in and press into the hands. Just a gentle lift. Feel a stretch and back down. Now we'll press up. Toes lift. Press to half plank. And then shift the hips back. Come into child's pose. Again, let's roll on the forehead. Back to all fours. Lift to downward facing dog pose. Left foot this time comes forward, and maybe that's using the help, using the left hand for a little assistance. That's all right. And then the right knee comes down. Inhale, lift the upper body. So a blanket underneath this right knee might feel really good to some of you. Do whatever you need to make this work for you. Let's lift and draw the right foot forward. Bow in, inhale, come all the way up. Full stretch. Exhale, hands come to the heart. Pause right here. Are you using the full foot on each side? Are you using equal pressure on the two sides? Can you just be really aware of what's happening internally, how you're using the structure of your body? Do you share the load throughout the entire body? Take another breath. And with Your next exhale, let go of any tension that you are able to perceive right now. Whatever you might have worked up, let it leave. Good. We're going to move into a balanced pose here. Sometimes people like to use a block if you have one. Sometimes it's a couple of folded blankets, or sometimes it's a stack of books underneath the foot. But otherwise, if you're just going to free flow into this balanced pose, let's lift the left knee. So just lifting the left knee and then bend the elbows. Maybe this left foot is placed on a block or a chair, rung of a chair in front of the chair, or a stack of books or whatever. Or maybe you're just letting your foot lower and lift and lower and lift as you need to, because we're not after perfection here. We're just after our own yoga practice. And let's shift our gaze, turning to the left. Come back to center. Lower the left foot, hands come to heart center. Take a breath, and then open the arms again wide. Lift the right knee, maybe using something underneath the right foot, which is totally fine. And then bend the elbows, turn to look over to the right. So the right knee cap is still facing off the front edge of your mat. You're turning and revolving at the rib cage. Feel that open into a deeper twist. Hold on to something if you want. There's no problem with holding onto a wall or your plant or whatever you want to hold on to, and then come back to center. Foot comes down, hands come to heart center. Pause right here. Inhale, arms up, full stretch. Exhale, fold forward. Coming into a warrior two. So bow in. I'm going to show from the back side first. I'm going to step my right foot back. So from this forward fold, step the right foot back into a really big step if you can. Left hand comes to the left knee for a little bit of support. As you lift and open into warrior two. So in warrior two position, we're taking it gentle today. This is just all about opening and just kind of finding how you're feeling in the body today, letting go of tension. So just see, how does it feel to you? Do you want to go into a much more gentle variation of warrior two? Or do you want to go really strong, really wide stance, thigh comes parallel to the floor? Just do whatever feels best for your body today. You're kind of treating yourself to just a kind and gentle, compassionate practice. Looking off the left fingertips, really reach the fingertips in either direction. So try to keep the ribs centered over the pelvis. Open up the front of the body as much as the back of the body. And we're just going to take a gentle stretch here. So right hand comes down, left lifts up. Maybe you're going into a big side bend or a little side bend, and then windmill back down to a downward facing dog pose. Press into it. Walk the feet forward. Standing forward fold. Relax the head, relax the arms. Maybe bring your hands behind, clasp the fingers. You can stretch the arms long and away, or if that stretch is tight in the shoulders, or if you're rehabbing a shoulder, or for whatever reason, if you feel like it's better to let the knuckles rest on the spine and draw the elbows toward each other, sometimes that's the better stretch, but trying to keep the shoulders from drifting toward the ears. Stay really long in the body. Maybe lengthen the legs a little more. And then slowly, bend the knees. Release the hands. Let's lift into a chair for just a breath. Inhale, feel the inhale. Exhale, deepen it. Keep the knees pointing forward. Inhale, lift all the way up. And then exhale, fold forward. Step the left foot back. Big step. Bring the shin perpendicular to the floor. Right hand can rest on the right knee as you windmill up. Reach the left hand as far back as you can. Maybe you're going more gentle. Maybe you want a bigger stance. Just do what feels best in your body. Don't let your knee creep in. Keep your knee over at the ankle. Really lengthen the back leg. Draw the ribs in. Try to have the rib cage centered over the pelvis. Shoulders, try not to lift up toward the ears. Let the shoulder blades come down the back. And now take this big stretch here. Big or little stretch. Just do what feels good. Left hand comes to the thigh. Maybe it's just holding the right arm lifted upward. Maybe that feels like the stretch for you here. Maybe you like going into maybe just a medium or deep stretch into a side bend, and then windmill down again to downward facing dog pose. Step the right foot back. Downward facing dog. Take a big stretch here. Feel the breath. Can you feel the breath in the navel center here or in the abdomen? Let the belly and the sides and the low back expand and contract with the breath. And then take another breath. Use the whole hand. Let the heels come a little closer, maybe to the floor. And then start to walk the feet forward. Take your time getting there. Hold this forward fold. Relax the head. Roll the shoulders. And then bend the knees. So my legs are not touching. I'm keeping everything parallel. Bend the knees. Keep the knees coming forward. Lift the arms. Exhale, deepen it. Take another breath. Don't hunch or crunch in the neck. And then inhale, lift. Rise up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Pause right here. Let's come into a wide leg stance. So this wide leg stance can be anything from just sort of a medium distance to really wide, if that feels comfortable to you, if you don't mind coming into that distance. Or it can be, for some of us, it'll look a lot less wide across the length of the mat. So just find whatever it's feeling like for you today. You just want it to be comfortable enough to not cause your rear end to reach toward the wall behind you and the chest to come forward. You want to be able to feel like you're really upright, tall, and shoulders come back, and that it's okay standing here, right here in this hip area. So find that. Also, don't let the toes come out wider than the heels. Bring the toes the same distance as the heels, or even a little closer than the heels. Either one. But find your stance here. Roll the shoulders back. And then with your hands on the legs, bring them to the back of the thighs. And for a little support, long spine, as if you're leading with the belly button. Let the belly button, chest, and then head come a little closer toward the floor. Let your hands float down the legs toward maybe it's the knees, maybe it's the shins, maybe it's the ankles. Take a breath, and then really let everything relax here in the upper body. Your legs are toned, not rigid, but toned and supporting you. Let go of the hands, let go of the legs, and bring the hands to the floor, and then press up and lift halfway. So this is where sometimes using your block or a bolster or a stack of books would be really helpful to find a lot more length in the spine, a lot more space to do what you need to be able to let the rotation of the spine happen without being harsh on any joint in the spine or on the shoulders. So if you like to bring the hands to a block, for example, I'll show you. Go ahead and find that, and find your forward fold with the hands underneath the shoulders, whatever that's going to be right now. And then left hand will stay right below the chest as you open the right arm out and up. So remember, it's not about how far the arm goes back, it's about revolving the ribs, the rib cage around the spine. and get really long in the spine. So crown of the head is reaching forward, tailbone reaching back. Don't rest all of your weight onto the left hand. Use the feet. Feel that tone in the legs, and then bring the right hand back down. Fold in a lot, and then lift back up. Now right hand will be below the chest, open with the left. And you know, you can also bring the left hand to the low back if that feels better to you, but it's all about how much you revolve the rib cage around the spine and lift the left ribs, side ribs, lower the right side ribs. It's not about how far your hand goes back and making it uncomfortable for the shoulder. You could leave the shoulder out of it completely. Take one more breath, really long in the spine. Are you as long as you can be? And then exhale, release that. Take a deeper forward fold. And then come back halfway. We're holding onto the mat, floor, blocks, whatever. Exhale, bend one knee. And lift up. Bend the other knee. Doesn't matter which one you do first or second because we get to both of them. And lift back up. Let's really tone the legs here as if you're drawing the inner thighs toward each other. Bring your hands back to the ankles. Fold in as deeply as you can. And then lift. So keep the spine long. Two ways to come up here. Either bend the knees and roll up, or keep the legs long, keep the spine long, and lift up. Walk the heels in, toes in, heels in, toes in. Step to the front of your mat. Pause for just a breath here. And then inhale, arms up, full stretch. Exhale, fold forward. We're coming to the floor. Fold in, step the feet back to downward facing dog pose. Lower the knees. Sit back on the heels for child's pose. Take a couple of breaths. Then cross at the ankles. Come to the middle of the mat. We're going to lower onto the floor. Get a couple of leg stretches and a really nice twist. So however you want to lower, you can either lower slowly down or just kind of roll onto an arm and let yourself down easily. But once you get here, let's pause for a moment. Let the back melt into the floor. Take a couple of breaths. Awareness of the breath at the belly if you can. In order to bring it down into the belly, or to feel as if you're breathing the breath into the belly, you kind of have to let go of tension in the upper body. So soften that. Release expression on the face. And then walk the feet in so that you feel like the heels are about sitting bone distance apart. Lift the right knee and extend the leg upward and rotate the ankle a couple of times. Both directions. Go a couple times each direction. And then keeping the leg firm and long, using the hip, rotate the leg, the whole leg, a couple of times each direction. You want to feel like you're kind of working the middle of the body, the hips, and then really reach point and flex, point and flex. Relax the shoulders, relax the neck, relax the face, relax this left foot that's resting on the floor. And then bend the knee, right knee, and then the ankle ends up over the left knee or thigh. Some people need to bring the heel a little closer to the hip crease to feel a stretch here. So find your stretch. it might be that you can draw this left knee a little closer to you. You'll feel a stretch in the right hip. Feels really good. You might even want to clasp behind the left leg. You might want to hold on to the left knee, or even clasp holding on to the shin. And then relax. Try to relax the breath. Try to soften the muscles around the eyes, around the neck and shoulders. Breath is in the belly. Let's release that. Bring the left foot to the floor. Let's extend the right leg again just for a stretch. Maybe draw it a little closer if that feels okay to you. Release the foot to the floor and just pause right here. How does that feel? Just notice. And left knee lifts up, extend the leg, couple rotations of the ankle, both directions. And then pointing the toes, keep the leg real still, toned, straight, and then circles. Feel that right here, initiating that movement from the hip, go both directions. Untense anything that's happening in the upper body, and then point and flex. Relax the neck. Where do you feel the breath? Bend the knee, bring your ankle over the right knee. You might need to draw this ankle down a little bit more toward the hip crease. That's okay if that happens. Or up a little bit higher, whatever helps you get the stretch that you need to get. So we'll take this stretch to the level that you need to take it to. Sometimes it's letting the right foot rest on a block, a blanket, or hug a little closer. Oopsie, sorry. Keep the stretch going for just a couple more minutes. Not minutes. I have a low battery. Full disclosure, I may not make it to the end. I just checked that and I don't know if it's filming. We'll see. And bring that down. Just take a pause right here. Maybe let the knees float side to side. And then a twist. We'll bring the knees up, hug the knees, open the arms, and let's lower the knees down to the left. So sometimes that's holding on to the knees. Sometimes it's resting your knees on a blanket. Try to keep the shoulders on the floor. Feel the ribs revolve. So trying to bring as much of the shoulder blades onto the floor as you can. Just maybe looking in the opposite direction to the right. Hold that a couple of breaths. Soften the eyes. Can you bring the breath lower in the body so that you feel the expansion of the middle of the abdomen, maybe even into the side ribs, and maybe into the low back? Can you feel the breath expand the body? And feel it return to center as you exhale. Let's go to the other side. Lift the right knee, the left knee. If you want to hug the knees, kind of reset the spine, go ahead. And then lower the knees down to the other side. You're trying to keep as much of the shoulder blades on the floor. So sometimes lifting up, adjusting helps. And you can put your hand on your knee if that helps. Or rest the knees on a blanket. Get the full twist by looking over the left shoulder, and then close the eyes. And relax any effort in the middle of the body, in the hips, in the neck. Kind of sinking in, melting into this twist for a couple breaths. Bring your head back to neutral. Lift the left knee, the right knee. Hug the knees again. Any other stretches that might feel good to you. Sometimes happy baby. Sometimes a forward fold. And then when you're ready to come into a relaxing pose, your final relaxation, let's lengthen the legs. Let your hands rest to the sides. If it's not comfortable to have the palms facing up, maybe consider bringing the palms to the belly. Some of you might like resting your knees over your folded blanket, or if you have a pillow that you want to put your knees over the pillow. Sometimes that's really soothing for the low back because we're really taking care of ourselves today. And then head should feel really neutral. So you don't want to feel like your chin is higher than everything else. If that's the case, you might really like having a blanket under your head. You don't want to bring the blanket under your head or feel, though, that your chin is coming toward the chest. You want to find a really neutral position with the head and the body. And then hands resting to the sides. For a moment, as you're sinking into this very peaceful feeling, recall your intention for your practice. It's okay whatever you're feeling at this moment. It's okay how we're responding and reacting to the stuff of the day, and your intention will carry through after this practice. Let that be a reminder for you over the course of the next day or so until we practice it together again. Remind yourself that it's all okay. It's okay, whatever feelings you have about it, but just know that it is possible to find moments of peace in the midst of all of that. And it sort of starts with just the breath and awareness of the breath. Allow yourself the luxury of laying here for as long as you like, even with the trains in the background. It's okay. We all have noise in our life, don't we? Allow yourself to just lull into this peaceful feeling as long as you can. And when you're ready to come out of it, it might be 5 minutes from now, it might be 10 minutes from now, it might be an hour from now. But when you decide to come out of this, you'll come to sitting. Use your internal gaze to pat yourself on the back and remind you that peace is possible. Compassion is possible. Kindness to yourself is possible. Thank you very much for taking this brief respite out of your day. And I hope that it's helped you in some way. Thanks for joining me in my at-home yoga studio. Namaste.